Today, we are going straight into the topic of airplane seats, and a few facts that you probably didn't know and should know if you are going to fly on an airplane. These facts include the reason why there are cameras and microphones in the seats, why most airplane seats are blue, why there is a cloth over the back of the seat, and why most planes don't have leather seats, and so much more. We are going to let you in on the secrets you have been missing out on while you are seated on an airplane. You will never fly again without knowing these bombshell truths. These are things every passenger should know, and now you are about to find out. So sit tight and listen up. Please stay until the end, because the entire video is packed with a lot of juicy secrets that you are about to discover. Let's get started. Back in the heyday of airplane travel, it was all about the flying experience, sublime service, stylish outfits, and enough room for passengers to cartwheel around if they felt so inspired. These days, it's all about cramming as many people into as many seats as possible, making sure the airline's accounting books stay in the black and not in the red. Most of us always complain about airplane food and argue about the window or the aisle. The latter reigns supreme on long-haul flights, though rarely do we take much notice of the actual seats themselves. Do you remember what color your last airplane seat was the last time you flew? Or did you realize that they have hidden cameras watching your every move? When you're flying high at 37,000 feet, a seat is much more than just a seat, and that's not always a good thing now. Is it? If you haven't noticed, the seats are always blue. Next time you step onto a plane, whether you're heading to Chile or Chattanooga, take a moment to notice the color of the seats. 9 times out of 10, each and every one of them will be some sort of shade of blue. There's a couple of reasons, and one is that blue has a calming, relaxing hue. Aside from the blue seats' positive effects on the brain, they also do a stellar job of masking and concealing all the grime, dirt, germs, and stains. Ever noticed how bus seats are predominantly blue with wild patterns? It's the same deal. Compared to a bright yellow, for example, a dark shade helps to make the seats appear cleaner and, therefore, offers longevity. Seats over the wings experience less turbulence. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned flyer gallivanting around the world on your frequent flyer miles, or a first-timer itching to see a new place. Turbulence is never fun. Unfortunately, we can't always avoid it, but what we can do is minimize it. Studies have shown that if toward the middle of the plane, right over the wing, is where the journey will be the least bumpy. The layout of an airplane's seats will determine whether it's a narrow-body or wide-body airplane. Narrow-body airplanes have a single aisle. Passengers as well as crew members can walk down this aisle. Wide-body airplanes, on the other hand, have 2 aisles. Wide-body airplanes live up to their namesake by featuring a wider fuselage than their narrow-body counterparts, which allows them to accommodate more seats and passengers. For those who would do anything to be next to the window, it can be wildly disappointing when you're not actually next to a window, instead needing to crank your neck forward or back to get a glimpse of the clouds. Ever wondered why that's the case? Money, that's why. Cash-hungry airlines try to squeeze in the maximum number of seats. Adding windows, on the other hand, is a little more difficult. Let's talk about the emergency exit seats now. A shout out to all the lanky-legged people out there. There's nothing worse than being squeezed like a sardine in what feels like a millimeter of legroom. Thankfully, the exit row seats are here to save the day. In an accident, large numbers of people need to vacate the plane as quickly as possible, so for the sake of safety, there needs to be some extra room. But those emergency exit seats don't usually recline. Don't get too excited just yet. It's not all glitz and glamour in the exit rows. Aside from the often annoying reality that you're provided with a flimsy TV screen hidden in the armrest, as opposed to a seatback entertainment system, the seats don't always recline. So before you move heaven and earth to sit near an exit, think about what matters most. Why don't some airline seats recline either? Airlines are always looking for ways to keep the weight of a plane down to keep fuel costs at a minimum, often at the expense of the comfort of the passengers. Seats which lack a foam covering are designed instead to be thin, light, and made to optimize and improve the living, or you could say seating space for passengers. Seats on many low-cost carriers like Ryanair don't have a recline mechanism, which also adds to the weight, and others go as far as removing the seatback net for magazines to help reduce weight. In terms of flooring, there isn't much variety in the carpets, and most airlines go with either nylon or woolen carpets, which are the most lightweight for cabin use. First-class seats are 70% more than those in economy. For most of us, the thought of sailing through the skies with incredible first-class amenities like a glass of champagne in one hand and a freshly baked cookie in the other is but a far-off dream. For those with pockets deep enough to afford a first-class ticket, it's a reality. Is the 70% hike in cost really worth it, though, for just a few hours of luxury? Can airplane seat cameras really spy on passengers? Singapore Airlines might have come out and stated that these cameras are permanently disabled on their aircraft and cannot be activated on board, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily believe them. That's right, Panasonic Avionics, the company that builds most of the seatback entertainment systems, do really install cameras and biometrics equipment. It's not just cameras, they're adding microphones too. Aside from the existence of hidden cameras that people are quickly realizing, in sheer panic most of the time, the seats have microphones too. Back in 2017, Panasonic Avionics announced that its systems on Emirates first class and economy seats featured a camera, plus a microphone and a speaker. Isn't that just a little creepy? Sometimes there are infrared sensors as well. Cameras, microphones, speakers. It doesn't stop there. British Airways, as well as the award-winning Air New Zealand, have come out and admitted that their seatback screens are fitted with infrared sensors. The idea of anything being hidden in plane seats, let alone biometric scanners, has raised a heck of a lot of questions. Are you getting value from this video so far? We hope so. Please hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. And don't forget to like the video. Now let's continue. Sometimes airlines remove row 13 of seats. When you're taking note of the color of the seats next time you board, be sure to count the row numbers as well. Depending on which airline you're flying with, Lufthansa is a perfect example, they may have omitted row number 13. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. The result of the widespread superstition that 13 is wickedly unlucky. Seats at the back are safest. If you want luxury, sit at the front and pay up. If you want the smoothest ride, then sit over the wings in the middle of the plane. But if you want the highest chance of survival when everything hits the fan, then plonk yourself down at the back of the plane. According to Business Insider, data from past crashes and crash tests shows that the back of the plane is probably safest. Some flight attendants sit backwards, or you could say they are seated facing the passengers, but they're back to the pilot door. I am sure you have seen that. The image of a flight attendant sitting backwards seems a little weird, doesn't it? As a regular flyer, wouldn't you expect them to be facing forward like the rest of us? It comes down to space. Since the cabin crew is usually on their feet, the retractable, back-facing jump seats can be stowed when not in use, allowing more room for passengers to stretch their legs. What's with the cloth on top of the seat? Next up on things you never noticed on planes but won't be able to avoid seeing next time you fly to Disneyland, the humble seat cloth. These thin pieces of fabric act as a barrier between the passengers' heads and the seat itself, and with correct cleaning, reduce the chances of transmitting any germs, because you can't just put an entire seat through the washing machine, can you? Let's talk more about the seating fabric and its importance. The material is almost always fabric. If you're just sporting a tiny carry-on bag on an even tinier plane for a short-distance flight, it's certainly possible that you'll find yourself sticking to a leather seat. On most long-distance routes, however, the seat material is almost always a cloth-like fabric. Why? Simply to allow the passenger's skin to breathe and avoid excessive sweating. Yes, as a general rule, Most long-haul carriers won't install leather seating because they can get unpleasantly sweaty for passengers. Synthetic fabrics breathe, which makes for a more comfortable experience. Fabrics are chosen for their hard-wearing qualities, and airlines tend to go with darker fabrics for maintenance reasons. It's much more of a bother to clear up a red wine spill on white fabric than on black, as most of us have discovered the hard way. Ergo, dark-colored seats mask dirt and therefore appear to be cleaner and longer-lasting than pale hues. For the same reasons, patterned fabrics are favored over plain ones for seat covers to mask wear and tear over the years. Space is measured in pitch. The space provided by airplane seats is typically measured in pitch. Pitch is the distance between the same point on two consecutive airplane seats. It's typically measured from the back of one seat to the back of the seat in front of it. Seat pitch can vary significantly depending on the airline and aircraft type. With that said, higher class seats, business class or first class, generally have a higher seat pitch than lower class seats. A high pitch means that passengers will have more space. Now let's talk about seats near a window and what is required. Regulations may require window shades to be open. If you have a seat near a window, you may be required to open the window shades when the airplane is taking off and landing. Window shades are visors that cover the window. You can open them to allow sunlight to beam into the airplane, or you can close them to achieve a darker environment. During takeoffs and landings, however, regulations often require window shades to be open. With the window shades open, visibility will increase, which can enhance safety. Seat comfort. Perhaps the one area we're all interested in when we get on an airplane is the type and size of the seat we'll be sitting on. Because let's face it, there are all types of plane seats available, but not all of them are the same. Each airplane has its own type of seats, and knowing which airline offers which type of seat can make your next flight a lot more pleasant. Even though all seats are made for comfort, it is still good to know the difference between the seat types so that you can specifically request the kind you want. Seats on airplanes usually correspond to the price of the ticket and the type of passenger they are meant to accommodate. First-class plane seats are naturally going to be bigger and wider than standard seats because people are paying more for the service. Therefore, the seats themselves are not as important as the class of service you choose, even though the two always go together. Seat combinations. While many airlines have two-seat combinations, others have three-seat combinations, while still others have two seats on one side of the aisle and three seats on the other side. The higher the class of seating, the larger and more comfortable the seat usually is, which is always something to keep in mind when you're reserving seats for your next flight. And that's it for now, folks. Thanks for staying until the end. Hope you learned something new. If you have anything to add, please do so in the comments section. We welcome your comments. Please visit the links in the description. Anything you purchase will support the channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next videos coming up. And please be safe until next time.